Chosen One, the thieving community that's been plotting against you just got caught red-handed. Their paper trail of corruption is spread across an investigator's desk right now, and there's no talking their way out of this one. The very people who thought they were clever enough to destroy you just handed over all the evidence needed to destroy themselves instead. The planning phase took months. Family members held secret meetings where they discussed your weaknesses, your relationships, your financial situation, and your daily routines. They analyzed your personality to determine what type of attack would be most effective. They studied your social circles to identify which relationships were most important to you, so those could be targeted first. The hired individual moved into your circles like a shadow. They studied your mannerisms, your energy, your way of speaking. They became a mirror, reflecting back a distorted version of who you are. Friends started saying things like, "Something feels off," but couldn't put their finger on what exactly had changed. Your reputation began shifting in ways that felt subtle but unmistakable. This person attended events where you were present, observing how you interacted with others. They learned your speech patterns, your sense of humor, your way of handling conflict. They practiced mimicking your energy until they could present themselves as an improved version of you. More agreeable, more accommodating, more willing to go along with what others wanted. You sensed something was wrong. That's because chosen ones possess an internal alarm system that most people lack. Your spirit recognized the counterfeit energy long before your mind could process what was happening. You felt uncomfortable in situations that should have felt normal. You noticed people treating you differently without understanding why. You experienced an unexplainable heaviness in environments where this person was present. The driving force behind this entire operation was money, your inheritance, your business, your property, or funds that legally belonged to you. Someone in your family couldn't stomach the thought of you having what was rightfully yours. They convinced themselves you didn't deserve it, that they could manage it better, that you were somehow unworthy of your own blessings. The financial motivation went deeper than simple greed. Your family members felt entitled to your resources because they believed their need was greater than your rights. They looked at your success and saw something that should be redistributed among the family. They viewed your individual achievements as selfish accumulation that took away from the collective good. So they pooled resources. Family members contributed cash to hire their chosen weapon against you. The amounts were significant, enough to make this a serious long-term investment in your destruction. They treated your downfall like a business venture, complete with planning meetings and strategy sessions. Some family members liquidated savings accounts to fund this operation. Others took out loans or borrowed against their own assets. A few sold personal belongings to contribute to the collective fund. The key financial commitment they made reveals how seriously they took this mission to destroy your life. The hired individual didn't work for free. This person demanded payment up front because they knew the spiritual and legal risks involved in what they were being asked to do. Your own family members opened their wallets and paid someone to destroy your peace, your reputation, and your financial future. The payment structure was organized like a professional contract. Initial payment for services, ongoing monthly compensation for continued efforts, and bonus payments for achieving specific milestones in the campaign against you. Your destruction was literally someone's job, funded by your own relatives. This is the part that hurts the most. Not just the betrayal, but the calculated nature of it. They sat around tables, probably in homes where you'd shared holiday meals, and discussed the best methods to tear down everything you'd built. They weighed different strategies, like business executives planning a corporate takeover. The hired operative began studying your life with the intensity of a professional spy. They learned your routines, your relationships, your vulnerabilities. They positioned themselves strategically within your social circles, your workplace, your community. Everywhere you had connections, this person found ways to insert themselves. The infiltration process was methodical and sophisticated. This person created fake social media profiles to monitor your online activity. They befriended people in your extended network to gather information about your personal life. They found ways to attend events where you would be present, always, appearing friendly and supportive while secretly cataloging everything they observed. Their job was to become you, but better, to offer people a version of your energy that seemed more polished, more agreeable, more convenient. They copied your speaking patterns, your ideas, your approach to relationships. But unlike the genuine article, you, this person had no authentic foundation beneath the performance. The copying went beyond surface-level mimicry. This person studied your core values and learned to articulate them more eloquently than you could. They observed your natural talents and found ways to demonstrate those same abilities in more impressive ways. They identified your character, strengths, and presented themselves as embodying those qualities to a greater degree. The infiltrator spread carefully crafted stories about you, not obvious lies that people would immediately reject, but twisted versions of truth that contained just enough reality to seem believable. They painted you as unstable, unreliable, potentially dangerous. They suggested you were hiding things, that your success was built on deception, that people should be careful around you. These stories were crafted with surgical precision. The infiltrator would start with something true about you, then add fictional details that changed the entire context. If you were naturally confident, they portrayed you as arrogant. If you were independent, they described you as selfish. If you were successful, they implied you achieved success through questionable means. Your authentic relationships began showing strain. People who'd known you for years started questioning things they'd never doubted before. The infiltrator was skilled at planting seeds of doubt without appearing to be the source. They positioned themselves as the concerned friend, the worried family member, the innocent bystander who just thought people should know. The psychological manipulation was expertly executed. The infiltrator never directly criticized you. Instead, they expressed concern for your well-being. They wondered aloud if you were under too much stress. They suggested that your recent behavior seemed out of character. They positioned themselves as someone who cared about you while systematically undermining confidence in your stability and trustworthiness. Your family didn't stop at character assassination. They escalated to legal warfare, attempting to use the justice system as their weapon. False reports were filed. Fraudulent documents were created. They tried to paint you as someone who needed to be stopped, contained, or punished. The legal strategy was multifaceted and sophisticated. They filed complaints with multiple agencies, hoping that at least one would stick. They created documentation that appeared legitimate on the surface, but contained subtle falsehoods designed to damage your standing. They recruited witnesses who would testify to fabricated events that portrayed you as unstable or dangerous. The goal was to get you entangled in legal proceedings that would drain your resources, damage your reputation permanently, and potentially result in restrictions on your freedom or finances. They wanted you defending yourself against fabricated charges while they positioned themselves as the innocent victims of your alleged misconduct. They calculated that even if their legal attacks ultimately failed, the process itself would be devastating. Legal defense costs would drain your finances. The stress of ongoing proceedings would damage your health. The public nature of legal issues would harm your reputation, regardless of the outcome. Your family members portrayed themselves as reluctant, participants who were only taking legal action because they had no choice. They claimed to be heartbroken about having to pursue legal remedies against someone they loved. They positioned their attack as an intervention motivated by concern for your well-being and the safety of others. But what they didn't count on was that the universe has a way of protecting chosen ones when they're under attack for walking in their purpose. Their legal maneuvers began falling apart almost immediately. Evidence didn't support their claims. Witnesses couldn't corroborate their stories. Officials started noticing inconsistencies in their documentation. What should have been your destruction became the beginning of their exposure. The following is a message from Mike, founder of the Obsidian Inner Order, powered by Astral Atom. You didn't just survive your past, you were refined by it. Every betrayal, every psychic attack, every night you thought you wouldn't make it, that wasn't random, that was the forge. And now, the blade is ready. Inside the Obsidian Inner Order, we gather each week on live Zoom calls. And yes, they're recorded. So when you're down in the pit, you can still tap the signal. You'll meet divine warrior goddesses who walk with ancestral fire in their spines, masculine healers who carry prophecy in their silence, a former military drone operator who now moves matter with his thoughts, a seer from Utah who broke free of Mormonism to become a Gnostic, a psychic in Noosa who used to be a millionaire, CFO, a spiritual healer who clawed their way out of a satanic cult and now channels light like a weapon. These aren't stories, they're your future reflections. If you've ever felt like you were meant for something more, it's because you are. The field is open, the war is real, the circle is waiting. Join the Obsidian Inner Order. Link in the description. Thank you all for supporting the broadcast. We quite literally could not do this without you. In their arrogance, your family and their hired operative made a critical mistake. They began using digital communications to coordinate their campaign against you. Phone calls, text messages, emails, social media messages. They documented their conspiracy in real time, believing they were too clever to ever get caught. The digital evidence they created was extensive and damning. Group text chains where family members celebrated successful attacks on your reputation, email threads discussing payment schedules for the hired individual, voice messages sharing updates on the progress of their campaign, social media posts that seemed innocent on the surface but contained coded references to their ongoing operations. They discussed payment schedules for the hired individual. They shared updates on the progress of their campaign. They celebrated small victories when they successfully turned someone against you. They planned their next moves and strategized about how to overcome obstacles. All of this was captured in digital formats that would later become evidence. The level of detail in their communications was staggering. They discussed which of your relationships to target next. They shared intelligence about your daily activities. They coordinated their stories to ensure consistency when questioned by others. They planned timing for maximum impact, such as launching character attacks right before important events in your life. Law enforcement agencies have sophisticated methods for monitoring communications when fraud, conspiracy, or other serious crimes are suspected. Once investigators identified the pattern of coordinated harassment and financial manipulation, they obtained authorization to monitor the communications of everyone involved. The technology that your attackers thought would help them coordinate more effectively became the instrument of their downfall. Every digital interaction created permanent records that couldn't be denied or explained away. The evidence was time-stamped, archived, and accessible to investigators who knew exactly what patterns to look for. Your family members and their hired operative found themselves under surveillance. Every call they made, every message they sent, every digital interaction became part of an evidence file that was growing larger by the day. They had no idea that Their private conversations were being recorded, transcribed, and analyzed by professionals trained to identify criminal conspiracies. The irony was profound. The very technology they used to coordinate their attack on you became the means by which their attack was fully documented and exposed. Their belief in their own cleverness blinded them to the digital trail they were creating. Within the legal system, there was someone whose job it was to review cases like yours, cases where families attempt to use legal mechanisms to steal from or control their own relatives. This person had seen enough fraudulent cases to recognize the patterns immediately. This official possessed both the experience and the integrity necessary to see through sophisticated deception. Unlike others who might have been swayed by emotional appeals or fabricated evidence, this person approached your case with professional skepticism and thorough investigation methods. This official looked at the documentation your family submitted and knew something was wrong. The timeline didn't make sense. The evidence felt manufactured. The witnesses couldn't provide consistent statements. Most importantly, when they looked at you, your history, your character, your actions, nothing supported the claims being made against you. The official's investigation revealed glaring inconsistencies that your family had overlooked in their eagerness to present their case. Dates that didn't align with known facts, witness statements that contradicted each other, financial records that showed suspicious activity on the part of your accusers rather than supporting their claims about you. So this official began digging deeper. They requested additional documentation. They interviewed witnesses more thoroughly. They cross-referenced financial records. They discovered the payments made to the hired individual. They uncovered the planning meetings. They found the digital communications. The investigation expanded as more evidence emerged. What started as a routine review of family legal disputes became a comprehensive examination of a criminal conspiracy. The official coordinated with other agencies and departments to ensure that all aspects of the case were properly investigated. What your family intended as a quick legal victory became a comprehensive investigation into their own criminal activity. The same legal system they had tried to weaponize against you became the instrument of their exposure and accountability. Once the investigation began, everything started unraveling for your attackers at an accelerated pace. The hired individual, realizing they were under official scrutiny, began experiencing what can only be described as a complete breakdown. The artificial confidence they'd maintained while living off your stolen energy disappeared. They couldn't sleep, couldn't eat, couldn't maintain the performance that had fooled so many people. The psychological pressure of being investigated for serious crimes proved too much for someone whose entire identity was built on deception. The hired individual began making mistakes, contradicting previous statements, appearing nervous in public, failing to maintain the polished persona that had been so convincing before. The family members who'd funded this operation found themselves dealing with consequences they never anticipated. Their own reputations were now under scrutiny. Their financial activities were being examined. Their legal liability was becoming clear to attorneys who began distancing themselves from the case. Legal professionals who had initially agreed to represent family members in their case against you began withdrawing from representation. The evidence of conspiracy and fraud created ethical conflicts that no reputable attorney wanted to be associated with. Your family found themselves scrambling to find legal representation, willing to take on a case that was clearly problematic. Business relationships started falling apart for those who'd built their success on money that should have belonged to you. Professional partnerships dissolved. Financial institutions began asking uncomfortable questions about suspicious transactions. Employment situations became unstable for those whose jobs depended on maintaining public trust. The financial consequences extended beyond legal fees and potential restitution. Family members who had used their own assets to fund the campaign against you found themselves financially overextended. Some faced foreclosure on properties they had leveraged to raise money for the conspiracy. Others dealt with damaged credit ratings due to missed payments, while their funds were tied up in the failed operation. The community members who'd been manipulated into turning against you began realizing they'd been lied to. The evidence was becoming too obvious to ignore. People started remembering inconsistencies in the stories they'd been told. They began questioning why they'd been so quick to believe negative things about someone they'd known to be trustworthy. Social dynamics in your community shifted as the truth emerged. People who had distanced themselves from you began reaching out with apologies. Those who had remained loyal felt vindicated in their judgment. The hired individual found themselves increasingly isolated as their network of supporters evaporated. Throughout this entire ordeal, you demonstrated something that marked you clearly as a chosen one. You didn't retaliate. Despite knowing you were under attack, despite having every reason to fight back with the same underhanded methods being used against you, you maintained your integrity. You trusted that truth would eventually emerge without you having to compromise your values to make it happen. Your refusal to descend to their level created a spiritual protection around you that their hired operative couldn't penetrate. Every attack they launched seemed to bounce back on them with increased intensity. Every lie they told about you ended up exposing their own dishonesty. Every trap they set for you became a snare for their own feet. The protection manifested in practical ways that seemed almost miraculous. Legal documents that should have damaged you were revealed as fraudulent. Witnesses who should have been credible were exposed as coached or paid. Evidence that should have supported their case actually pointed to their own criminal activity. You maintained your daily routines and continued pursuing your goals while under attack. This consistency in your behavior served as evidence of your stability and integrity. While your attackers became increasingly erratic and desperate, you remained steady and focused. Investigators compiled a comprehensive record of the conspiracy against you, bank records showing payments to the hired individual, phone records documenting coordination between family members, email chains revealing the planning process, social media activity demonstrating the spread of false information, legal documents showing the fraudulent claims. The paper trail was so extensive and detailed that denial became impossible. Every aspect of their campaign was documented. Every participant was identified. Every financial transaction was traced. Every false statement was catalogued. This documentation became the foundation for legal proceedings that would result in consequences far more severe than anything they'd attempted to impose on you. The people who'd tried to destroy your future were about to discover that their own futures were now in jeopardy. The evidence was so overwhelming that plea negotiations became the only realistic option for most of the conspirators. The prospect of going to trial with such extensive documentation of their criminal activity was simply too risky for any defense attorney to recommend. The official who'd uncovered the truth began the process of not just clearing your name, but actively restoring what had been taken from you. Your reputation was officially vindicated. Your finances were protected and restored. Your legal standing was completely cleared. The restoration process was comprehensive and went beyond simply returning you to your previous status. Official statements were issued acknowledging that you had been the victim of a criminal conspiracy. Public records were corrected to remove any false information that had been entered as a result of the fraudulent claims. But the restoration went beyond just returning you to where you'd been before the attack. The exposure of the conspiracy actually elevated your position in ways you couldn't have achieved on your own. People now knew that you'd been the target of an elaborate scheme, which made your integrity and character even more obvious by contrast. The universe was giving you back everything that had been stolen, plus interest. The restoration included intangible benefits like increased respect, stronger relationships, and a reputation for integrity that would serve you for years to come. The family members who'd orchestrated this conspiracy discovered that their actions had consequences extending far beyond what they'd anticipated. Legal liability was just the beginning. Their reputations in the community were permanently damaged. Their financial stability was compromised by legal fees and restitution requirements. Criminal charges resulted in permanent records that would affect employment opportunities, housing applications, and professional licensing for years to come. Family members who had held positions of trust in their communities found themselves removed from those roles once their criminal activity became known. The hired individual who'd taken money to destroy your life found themselves facing not just legal consequences, but a complete collapse of their ability to operate in the spiritual realm. The gifts and abilities they'd used against you were now turned against them. They experienced a spiritual isolation that left them powerless and alone. The loss of spiritual abilities was particularly devastating for someone whose livelihood had depended on those gifts. The hired individual found themselves unable to perform the services they had previously offered to clients. Their reputation in spiritual communities was destroyed as word spread about their involvement in the conspiracy against you. As a chosen one, you were never meant to be destroyed by this attack. You were meant to survive it, overcome it, and emerge stronger because of it. The entire ordeal served as a purification process that removed disloyal people from your circle and revealed who truly deserved access to your energy. The experience taught you invaluable lessons about human nature, family dynamics, and the lengths some people will go to in order to take what doesn't belong to them. You learned to recognize the signs of deception and manipulation in ways that will protect you from future attacks. You now possess something invaluable, the absolute certainty that you can trust your intuition. Every strange feeling you had during this ordeal was accurate. Every concern that was dismissed by others was valid. Every moment when you sensed deception, you were sensing it correctly. Your spiritual discernment has been sharpened to a level that will serve you for the rest of your life. You'll never again doubt yourself when something feels off about a person or situation. You've learned to trust the internal warning system that marks you as chosen. The experience also revealed the depth of divine protection available to you when you remain aligned with your higher purpose. You witnessed firsthand how staying on the high road activated universal forces that worked on your behalf without you having to compromise your integrity. The financial restoration coming your way isn't just compensation for what was taken. It's the universe acknowledging that you passed a significant test. You maintained your integrity under extreme pressure. You trusted divine justice instead of taking matters into your own hands. You proved worthy of the blessings that were always meant to be yours. Your victory serves as a testimony to others who may be facing similar attacks. Your story demonstrates that chosen ones are protected even when the attacks come from within their own families. The same divine purpose that made you a target also ensured your ultimate victory. Moving forward, your life will be characterized by a level of protection and discernment that makes you virtually immune to this type of attack. The people who tried to destroy you actually equipped you with supernatural wisdom that will serve you for decades to come. You are a chosen one, and this victory proves it beyond any doubt. The very people who sought to tear you down became the instruments through which your divine protection and purpose were revealed. their hatred became the catalyst for your elevation, and their conspiracy became the foundation for your vindication.